morning. Welcome to the Entrepreneur Spotlight. Easy word for me to say, Collin. I'm here with Collin Duel, a fellow veteran, a fellow warfighter like myself, and one of Guthrie's finest young attorneys.
I appreciate you saying that, and it's good to be here today. I'm glad that you guys invited me to do this.
Well, I appreciate you coming down because we want to talk about tools for local businesses, things you can do to help them as a general practitioner attorney in Guthrie, Oklahoma. You're well respected in the community. We all love hanging out with you, and just thanks for being here today.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, and excited to talk about it. You know, whether it's business formation or something like that. We're right down the street from you guys, and you can give anyone our address and be happy to help out.
We love it. You know, one of the challenging things we see with businesses that are not properly put together. And then something happens, and now they're in trouble. What suggestions do you have for small business owners that are trying to get started so they don't make that fatal error?
You know, this is going to sound a little bit self-serving, but definitely go see an attorney who's well-versed in setting up businesses, making sure that they're compliant with any documentation they might need. And it's also nice to just have that relationship built from the get-go so that if you run into anything in the future, you can reach out to that attorney. And if he or she's not able to help you, they can at least steer you in the right direction.
One of the other things you and I talked about is estate planning. Now, I'm going to share this with you. My mom passed away a few years ago, and the one thing that saved us, my brother and I, was estate planning. So what do you see as far as your clients and estate planning, and how does that really help them and impact them when things do go wrong or not as expected?
Well, yeah, and it's absolutely important from all ages. Really, once you become an adult until you're kind of in your senior years, it's super important. If you have young kids, you want to be able to provide for who might take care of them if something were to happen to the parents. But any client that comes in to me and they want to discuss estate planning, I recommend a few things, you know, depending on how big or small or diverse their estate is. And you always have to have a will. And in that will, you'll nominate an executor or someone who can kind of marshal and take care of your estate if something were to happen. And you can also name a guardian, kind of like what I mentioned before. But a will, a power of attorney, and depending on your estate, maybe even recommend a trust. And I want to kind of connect the two. If you have a small business, an LLC or something like that, it's very important to have the right documents in place with regards to the business. But then also, if something were to happen to you, what happens to that business? Does your interest transfer to your spouse, to your kids? So it's very important to go reach out to an attorney who can maybe help you with all those things.
Now, I would say in business, an attorney is a tool for our business owner. They bring a lot of value to your business. They will keep you out of a lot of trouble and make sure you're going the right direction. You know, we talked about estate planning. I want to talk a little bit about trust. I don't think a lot of people understand what a trust is and how it protects you as a human being. You don't need to be a multi-bajillionaire to have a trust for your family.
You're exactly right.
So what are the advantages you see to just everyday Oklahomans for having a trust set up if something does happen to their spouse or their children?
Yeah, well, it's similar to a will in that you can direct your estate to your heirs or whoever you want it to go to. A trust is good because you title a lot of property into that trust, where in a will, your property is titled in your name. So if you were to pass, you would have to go through the probate process. And the probate process is about a year-long process. It can be done a little quicker than that, but it can take some time. And you have a court who oversees the whole process, making sure that your executor in the will is carrying it out correctly. But with court and time comes attorney's fees, filing fees, things like that. So a will costs money to draft, to have an attorney to draft it, and then on the back end, an attorney to carry out the probate process, and filing fees and court costs. Now that's a will. Now when we're talking about a trust, if you were average, ordinary Oklahoman, you could title your house in the trust, any real property, meaning rental property, land, things like that, you could title it in the trust, vehicles, you name it. And you, within that vehicle, that trust vehicle, you will determine how the property is distributed upon your passing. Now here's the thing. It doesn't have to go through probate because that property is titled in the trust. And as soon as you pass, the trust goes into effect and you'll have a trustee, similar to an executor, who will then distribute the property without having to go through probate, having to hire, well, you probably want to talk to an attorney, but without going through the court process and having a judge oversee your every action.
And I'm going to share this with you because I live this, and he's right. Get your stuff in a trust no matter what you have. It doesn't cost a lot of money to set up a simple trust for your family, because when something does happen, my brother and I were the executors for the trust, the officiators, so we just divvied up stuff like we talked about with Mom we were going to do, and it was done. We had one piece of insurance policy that ended up in probate, and it was the biggest pain in our backside. It took us 6 months of dealing with attorneys, and just because we didn't move, Mom hadn't moved something into the trust. Look, we at the Entrepreneurship Spotlight, we need to understand what asks are available to you as an entrepreneur. And I just want to thank you, Collin, for sharing some really good insight with the business owners in Guthrie, Oklahoma, and the rest of the state today.
No, happy to do that. And you hit on one of the primary issues of having a trust is you have to make sure your property is all in that trust. Let's say you create a trust and then inherit a rental property. If you don't put in the trust, you're going to have to go through probate for that rental property.
That is a fact. Jack lived it. So with that, I'm Dave Evans with Collin Duel. We are out of here.